Hey Courtney, it's Morgan. I just wanted to make a quick video, and I apologize in advance if this goes long because I know myself, and it usually does. But I wanted to make a quick video in response to your Mother's Day video. And I wanted to let you know a few things. I don't know exactly what you've been through, but little pieces of it I've been through. For example, I've never been able to celebrate Mother's Day with my mom because she lost her mother on Mother's Day. My grandmother had a brain tumor in the 1960s, very invasive surgery. She went into remission for 2 years. Everybody thought everything was good. In fact, she lasted long enough to hold me as a baby, and it's nice to have a memory and have photographs of her holding me and to know that that happened, though I have no memory of it. But then the brain tumor came back more aggressively and she passed away on Mother's Day. So my mother was never able to celebrate, and as a child I didn't understand that, and I was always very hurt by it. But later, when I grew up, I heard the story and I understood why. And in recent years I've been able to talk her a little bit off the ledge and put her mind at ease a little bit more. So, you know, I was able to call her on Mother's Day and stuff, which is nice. But I understand some of the things that you were talking about. Lame hugs. My last hug with my dad was very lame, and he and I both knew that it was lame, and he and I both knew that it was possibly our last hug. The irony about it was that my dad told me when I was young, you know, I used to tell him that I loved him and stuff, and that was awkward for him. And he confessed to me at one point that neither of his parents ever hugged him as long as he lived, and neither of his parents ever told him that they loved him as long as he lived. And that broke my heart. I didn't understand that. So I worked very hard on teaching him how to say I love you and teaching him how to hug. And once my dad learned those things, he was totally into it, and he gave great hugs. I love my dad's hugs, and I miss them. But the last one, he was suffering from lung cancer, and he was very frail, and everything hurt him very badly. It was complicated by diabetes and heart disease, and he lost a finger to necrosis, and he had another finger that was going. So everything hurt. So hugging him, I had to be very, very gentle. And when I moved home to help my father battle cancer, and I quit my job, moved 2,000 miles back to Chicago, and dug in for a long haul. I figured it was going to be 2 or 3 years of you know, dealing with treatments. But he was gone in 5 days. So I didn't get to say goodbye to him either. The last day, it was 3 sessions of chemotherapy, and on the 3rd session he just got very, very sleepy, and I couldn't bring him home. We lived on the 3rd floor. There was nothing I could do with him. So I asked him if I could leave him overnight for observation and come back the next day when he was, you know, a little bit, you know, back into it, snapped out of the drugs. And they said, yeah, sure, absolutely. A couple hours after I went home, they called me and said they were resuscitating him, and like that, he was gone. And my sister and his sister were both furious with me for not calling them, for not letting them know the situation. And I said, look, I didn't know the situation. I didn't get to say goodbye to him either. I was here. They didn't understand. People, you know, people get very, you know, people get worked up in situations like that, and you can't blame anybody. You can't blame them. You can't blame yourself. I've always been very sad to not be able to say goodbye to my dad. Especially since we knew it was coming. Do you know what I mean? We both understood, and we never really had that conversation. But at the same time, we both knew we loved each other. We told each other all the time. Another person I had that happen to was my stepfather. My mother and my father were divorced at a very early, when I was very young. It was like 3 years old. And Lee had been my mom's first love before she met my dad. But he went to prison for 13 years for armed robbery. He was a very poor kid, got adopted by a very wealthy family, and then rebelled against the wealthy family, became poor again. So he and his brother were always you know, holding up liquor stores and stuff for food money. Not very smart, but you know, he did what he did. He served his time, and he happened to come out just about the time that my parents were splitting up. So my father's side of the family attacked that very aggressively. They tried to get him thrown back in jail. They tried to discredit my mom for being with him, and it was a terribly ugly situation. But as it turned out, Lee stood by my mom for the rest of his life. When my sister and my dad had a falling out and she had nowhere to go, he took her in as his own daughter, and he always opened his doors to me, even though I was, you know, on my dad's side of the family. My dad had custody, which was very rare in those days, aggressive they were about it. And he always let me into his home and never held it against me, anything that my dad did. He was really one of the most decent and honorable men I ever knew, and I loved him dearly. He had hepatitis C, and we knew for a long time that he was passing away. But when I had one opportunity, I was in town to actually say goodbye to him, I kind of chickened out. And it had nothing to do with emotions. I would have happily said things to him, except he was very hard of hearing, so you had to yell at him and you had to repeat things, which totally takes all of the sting out of saying something affectionate. Plus, he was one of those old school guys, you know, quiet, laconic, really tough guy, and didn't like to talk about the emotional stuff, so it might have been awkward, and I sort of let the moment pass, and I never got it back. So those are, you know, two people that I love very much that left my life and I didn't get to say goodbye. But that's the way it is, you know, things happen. I've always been very, very touched by your relationship with your grandma. When my father got divorced, he needed, you know, he had to work still, and he was continuing to look for a mate and someone to raise his kids. He never actually found somebody, but he put a lot of investment into it. And so he needed somebody to watch the kids, so he took us to his mom's house. All of us lived with his mom, my grandmother. So I was very close to my grandmother, but it was a very different relationship than you have with yours. She was also very sick. She had diabetes and heart disease. She was on a lot of medication. She was probably clinically depressed. She was verbally abusive. She could be physically abusive, but I still loved her dearly. So when I saw the kind of relationship that you had with your grandma, I thought, you know, here's a young person reaching across the generations and just having a great relationship with somebody, and it's kind of uncommon these days. I never dreamt, I never realized that you guys were, you know, survivors together, that you were warriors in the trenches, that you've been through so much, and that, you know, that's deep and it really touches me, and I hope you never lose that with your grandma. I do want to say to you though, I mean, I understand your feelings about things going wrong and about feeling guilty and whatnot, and I totally respect that. In fact, that's a good thing. It says good things about your character, frankly. But by the same token, sweetie, you were a kid. You were a kid when this happened. There's no such thing as a bad reaction from a kid who loses her mom. I mean, nothing that you did was inappropriate. What would have been wrong is if people didn't reach out to you and help you to heal and help you to get over that. And clearly a lot of that's happened, so I'm glad for it. But the rest of it, you just gotta let go, Pumpkin. I mean, you know, whatever's left of your mom, wherever she is, if she's in a good place or if she's just in your heart, wherever she is, she loves you, she forgives you. That's the truth. I mean, that's all that's left. Celebrate the good things, you know? That you'll never have a fight with your mom again, that you'll never have another misunderstanding. That from now on, it's just whatever you feel in your heart. It's just gonna be good things all the time. I loved your pictures when you were a kid. You guys were all adorable, and your mom was a sweetie. And I'm glad that you guys had each other. And I don't want those to be bad memories for you. So I just want to make a video to say, you know, forgive yourself. Let it be okay. Keep loving your mom. She's still a part of your life. She can still teach. My dad still teaches me things. Oddly enough, I don't think he's a ghost or anything. That's not my point, but. You know, I hear something that I know what my dad would say about it. You know what I mean? Or I get into a situation, I think, what would Dad say? And I kind of can feel that. So it's a comforting thing. It's a nice thing. Anyway, just want to make a quick video and tell you those things, and that I love your channel, and I'm a huge fan, and you know, stay strong. All right, Courts, take care.